Russell, thanks for coming in, man.
Well, thank you for having me.
I think we might have surprised you with the podcast.
I think so.
Well, this is super easy, very laid back. All we like to do is talk about business. There's a couple of kind of target audiences we're looking for. Number one is home service businesses, right? I think what I found when I owned the restoration company was in my first year, 2 years, it was lonely as hell. And I thought I was the only one going through the pains of being a young entrepreneur who doesn't know what he's doing until I started talking to other businesses and other entrepreneurs. And I was, okay, I got a little bit of comfort knowing that there was other people that were going through the ups and downs and all that stuff. So a lot of these conversations with business owners have been that. It's just been good to talk about how they've gotten through certain things. And it's been really cool for us to see the commonality across all different industries and home services feeling the same problems, which also led to the creation of what My Home is. So that's kind of number one on the podcast. And number two is, selfishly for us, it's a great acquisition channel for us. There's not a lot of home service podcasts out there, and home service companies want to market themselves. So what we do is we bring them in. It's all free. They come in, they have a conversation. We edit it. We give them all the footage. They can use it on their social media. They can use it in any form that they want. And then it's just a good way to kind of promote these business owners that are usually second career. They put a ton of their life savings into this. And what we're really trying to do with that is change some of the stigmas associated with home services. You know, it's not the plumber with his crack hanging out. It's, it's Bill who is on his second career and he's put a ton of money into this. And he's got a crew and they care about their product. They care about their customers. So that's just another fun side effect that we're trying to do with having these conversations. So.
Right, and for that guy Bill who comes into his second career, he's learned a lot from his first. He knows the mistakes that he's made and that other people have made, and it's all on him.
That's exactly right.
And he believes in value and customer service, and being a business owner is tough.
Yes. And
Very
giving
tough.
them an opportunity to promote that, and it's not necessarily their services they're promoting, it's their reputation, their brand that they're promoting. And what we're trying to showcase for them is everything you just said, right? Bill was in maybe a whole different industry for 20 years, and he learned the goods, the bads, and then he was like, you know what, I'm gonna go out on my own. I'm gonna live the American dream. I'm gonna go try to do this on my own and put a lot of money and time into this. So we just want to promote that. And we want our potential users of our product to know that we're an invite-only platform. These business owners that they're seeing, these vendors that they're seeing are strictly vetted. They're great people. They're great business owners. They take care of their people well. We want to be different than that, right? So we want to really promote quality over almost everything else. And that's our promise to our customers, is that if they find a business on our platform, they're going to be the highest quality that they can possibly find in their area, because we want to take that vetting process away from them, so they don't have to. So that's kind of just the background, because I know we kind of blindsided you. But Russell, tell us a little bit about yourself. What brought you to Nashville? How long you been here?
Oh gosh, I grew up in Winchester. Okay. Went to UT. So
you're Tennessee through and through.
Oh yeah, blood runs orange.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
So
You're rare.
Yeah, I was second generation. My two children are third generation UT.
Wow.
So, but anyway, after Knoxville, moved to Nashville, answered an ad in the newspaper. This is how old I am.
That's what I'm talking about.
But I answered an ad in the newspaper and went to work for a company, Royal Cup Coffee, based out of Birmingham, and I delivered coffee. I had an office coffee route. Met my wife through a sales call, a cold call that I made. Ran into a couple of folks that I knew, and they introduced me. We got set up on a blind date, and 30 to 3 years later, we're still married. And
nice. Congratulations.
So, but the job then took me to North Carolina. We were there in Charlotte for 4 years. Came back to Nashville, or actually moved to Franklin. Raised our children in Franklin. I changed coffee companies and was in the industry for 30 years.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So the Bill story hits home.
Oh yeah.
With changing careers and taking
yeah,
a step
and I was forced to do something because during the pandemic.
I love it.
And we're seeing that more and more. And I want an apology for everybody at Publix that told me I didn't have my mask on. Anyway. So
do I.
Yeah.
I was with you.
Yeah.
I want an apology from the airlines as well.
Absolutely.
For getting pissed off at me.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Wasn't my fault.
Yeah,
And I'm not the guy they're looking for. So anyway, lost my job, my career after 30 plus years. And that was in 2020. And I remember getting a phone call saying you're being furloughed. I said, what does that mean? And the guy got kind of mad at me. And a month later, he called me and said, you're being laid off. And I said, oh, that's what furlough means.
Yeah.
So
it's a pre-layoff.
Pre-layoff.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had to do something. And if you remember at that time, nobody was hiring.
Yep.
It was tough.
Yeah.
And so I got my real estate license. And I like to tell people I bring 30 years experience to what I do today. And I look back, wish I had done this a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
I
great,
absolutely love it. I don't travel anymore. I don't argue with Hertz or the hotels. You know, I get to sleep in my own bed. Anyway, I love what I do.
Nice.
And being in business for myself, there's so much that I've learned about me, how I got to do things, and bring with me my corporate career, but also see how people make a living. And, you know, there's folks out there making a living that I question, go, you can make a living doing that?
Oh my gosh, man.
And you see it every day.
Yes.
And there's a need for that.
Big time.
But those people have got to be discovered, and they're working around the clock.
Yep.
To promote themselves and their business. And
it really does open your eyes when you make a big shift like that. So I was in the military for about 6.5 years before I started our first business in 2020. So I got out of the military in 2020 and started.
What branch?
I was in the Army.
Okay. Well,
I was
thank you for your service.
Yeah, man. But to your point, I was only in for about 6.5 years, but I went to West Point before that, so that was another 5 years. So it was 11 years. So and at that time when I got out, I was 29. So 11 years of my life was a significant portion, and so
yeah, from West Point at age 18
to 29, 30. That's it was all military.
Yep.
So that was the only thing I knew. And to your point about, you kind of get your eyes open when they're forced to be open, I remember driving around when I got out of the military, like looking at all these businesses. I'm like, how the hell have they been there for 20 years and they sell hangers or, whatever it is? It just opens your mind to, okay, if you want to go do something, you can go out there and do it. You just got to know that it's going to take some work. It's not going to be easy, no matter the industry. There is no get-rich-quick secret out there. It's just hard work. And if you can be in an environment that you like, I think that makes it a whole lot easier.
You got to do what you love. And this is a crock pot. It's not a microwave.
Right.
It takes a long time to get established, and you got to be an expert in it.
Yep.
And you got to put yourself out there.
Big time. And I think we talk about that a lot, because putting yourself out there is scary, not because the initial put yourself out there. I think it's scary because subconsciously you go, if I fail now, everybody will know that I failed at this. If I don't put myself out there and publicly let people know I'm doing this thing, then if I fail, no one knows, and I can protect my own ego. But if I put myself out there and it fails, now I'm known as a guy who failed at that thing. But I think the risks are worth it. I think if you look at most entrepreneurs, even the biggest ones you can think of, they have a graveyard of failed businesses behind them, or average, mediocre businesses, and they've put themselves out there every single time. And I think that if you look at their stories, it's more of a nod to don't give up than it is having this crazy business savvy mind that people might think you have to have in order to make it in any career.
Right. And when you make that decision to do something, don't be scared to say, how do I do that?
Right.
Just start doing it. You'll figure it out.
That's exactly right.
The big thing, when I came from the corporate world, I was a W-2 guy, had all my taxes taken out, and I was scared to death when you get this commission check and you realize how painful it is to pay your taxes. But you learn to do that, and you learn to get an accountant. You learn to set the money aside.
It's really cool to see how adaptable you can become, even after a 30-year career of doing not the same thing, right? Because I'm sure every day was different, but a 30-year career of knowing, okay, this is generally what I got to do. I know I'm going to make each year. I know what, all that's becomes very habit.
Right.
And then you're thrust into something else. And within a year, it's almost like you can almost not even remember the old way you used to do it. It's crazy how adaptable you can be.
Well, on that note, I didn't have a Facebook account. I did have a Twitter account because I like to yell and scream at other fan bases, other than you two.
I've got to follow that. I think I would enjoy that.
Okay, I'll leave that out of the real estate realm. But when I was studying for my real estate class and exam, I go, okay, now that I passed, I gotta put myself out there. I had to do a Facebook, and I had to do an Instagram. Yep. And then I learned Facebook's not that important anymore. It still is to older folks, but kids like Instagram. Yeah. And then I did a YouTube channel. Yep. And it was like, well, how do I do that? I don't know. Let's go find out.
That's right.
And it's like eating an elephant. You do it one bite at a time, and you'll figure it out. Don't be scared to make a mistake.
To try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was talking to somebody the other day, and it was like a LinkedIn post. It was a friend of mine, so everybody has their own style of things, but he was talking about how he doesn't he's not a fan of building in public, right? So building your company in public is not what he likes to do. And I take the exact opposite approach, because I think if you build in public, you open yourself up to as many networks as possible. And there are so many people out there that want to help you, that, aren't even like a business trying to get you as a client. They're just somebody who goes, ooh, I know a guy who tried something similar. I can hook you up with him. You can learn lessons from him. And then he introduces you to somebody else. And to me, if you're not putting yourself out there, and you're not building in public, and you're not telling people what you're doing, you're not trying to kind of change your brand to where when somebody thinks of you, they think of your thing, then those connections just don't happen.
Absolutely.
And it makes it hard.
And it works the other way, too, I think. If you follow someone else, maybe not related to your business, but you like their style, their messaging, their content, hey, if you like it, think it up.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's like a really common point of conversation in here is when we talk to business owners, one of the things I usually ask is, what's one piece of advice you'd give yourself if you're starting over in your business? And overwhelmingly, I'm talking like 80-90% of the time, it's get involved within the community and network quicker than you did, and turn it up to 10. Right? In those early days when you're not busy because you don't have any clients or any customers who want your stuff, you should just be out there talking to people, putting yourself out there, and that can come in the form of social media, personal networking events, one-to-one meetings, whatever it needs to be. Just go out there and ask and ask and ask and ask and ask and ask and ask.
Yeah, and it begins with the people you know too. Exactly. Your sphere. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them that you switch gears.
Right, and I think sometimes people think there's a negative side to that. They think, well, I don't want people to think I'm not serious about my career because I switched again or did this or did that. It's like maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that would have been a negative thing. But I think nowadays, the tide's changing on that. It's no longer looked at negatively to say, hey, I'm pivoting my careers. And really, you see big companies like Amazon, they have a name, they encourage it. They have a name for it. They call it leapfrogging, to where if you have this job here at Amazon and you want this job at Amazon, but they don't think you're ready, you go to this company and you get that job. And then they're paying you a little bit less. You may be making more than you were. And you prove it, you come back to Amazon, and they're like, yep, we'll hire you there because you proved it not on our dime. So, there's nothing wrong with pivoting, doing what you want. I think it's a huge lesson for entrepreneurs is if it's not working, cut it and do something else.
Well, and on that note, too, if you're working for somebody else and you think you have the skill set to get that job, that promotion, you don't owe anybody anything.
That's right.
And that's proven. That was my world when I left. We got caught in a buyout, and then the pandemic, and they took advantage of that. Yeah. You don't owe anybody anything.
That's right.
You owe it to yourself.
100%. It's an interesting example because somebody was in here the other day mentioning this quote. It's a Jim Carrey quote, and he's talking. He's like he's giving a speech at a graduation. He's talking about his dad. Who, if you might have heard this, he was talking about his dad was an accountant for 30, 40 years. And growing up, he always asked, like, because he was like, his dad was hilarious. He could have been a comedian. And his dad was like, no, I needed to do the safe thing. I needed to bring in the bills, do this, do that. And he was like, and by the time he was, in his teens, Jim Carrey, his dad got fired. And he's like, and then they were back to living in a one-bedroom apartment, and they had to find new work and all this stuff. And he was like, my dad chose the safe route, and we still ended up failing. So his whole point of it was, if the possibility of failure is there, you might as well take a stab at what you want to do or what you think you want to do. And if you fail, you fail. Whatever, you can figure the next thing out. But just choosing the safe route doesn't prevent from failure, because there's so many things, like you said, that are out of your control. And like, I can't imagine doing 30 years of the company, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, sorry.
No, it's over.
You're out.
Yeah, that hurt.
That hurts. It has to feel personal at some point.
It did for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's taken a long time to get over it.
Yeah.
It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll ever will.
That's what I don't think I could.
But you got to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. At some point, you have no choice. Okay, so let's get into your real estate business.
Okay.
So, when you got laid off, what was the big decision to go? All right, let's take a stab at the real estate industry.
Well, the decision was made when my phone didn't ring. When I had to do a resume, I hadn't had a resume in 30 years.
Right.
And I put one together, and I went, "Oh my God, it's a pretty good resume."
Mm-hmm.
And sent it out. But remember, nobody was hiring. And my sister called me. My sister Carol. She lives in the Woodlands, Texas, outside north of Houston. And she's a realtor. And she said, "I've been thinking about this. Why don't you get your real estate license?" And I went, "Okay." I'm thinking, phones aren't ringing. Nobody wants me.
Yeah, might as well.
The world's at a halt, standstill.
Yep.
So I took the class. I was never a great student at UT. It took me a few years extra to graduate.
Me too.
Never lost a party. So, but you're a West Point guy. They forced you.
I did 5 years.
Really?
So I went to the prep school.
Okay.
So I went to West Point Prep because they were like, we don't know if you can make it. You got to give us 1 year before. I was almost like a redshirted college student.
Okay.
They're like, hey, go do this. We'll watch you, and then you can come.
Well, they didn't do that back in 1980 at UT. You fogged the mirror, you got in anyway. So, but anyway, I took the class, and I jokingly say, Mom and Dad rolling over in their grave when I passed the test the first time and all this other stuff. So anyway, I always had it in me, but I love what I do. Got into it like I was forced to.
Yeah. And
went to work affiliated with Zeitlin Sotheby's out of our Franklin office. Okay. Charlie Neese is our managing broker, and great guy. Charlie, I don't know how long you've lived here.
About 5 years.
He used to be the weatherman on Channel 5.
Oh, cool.
So
nice.
Every time I see him at a Zoom meeting, I'm waiting on him to talk about the weather map. Yeah. But anyway, good guy, great firm. We've got another office in Green Hills, and like I said, my focus is Williamson County, Middle Tennessee. I grew up in Winchester, grew up on Timms Ford, and know the lake well. So, like to work with folks that want that second home or
nice.
The move to the lake, downsize to the water. Yeah. Oh, if I had a time machine.
Gorgeous out there, man.
Oh, it is.
So how do you pronounce it? Zeitlin?
Zeitlin. Yeah. And we're an affiliate of Sotheby's.
Gotcha.
And Sotheby's is another tongue challenged word to pronounce.
Yeah. It's memorable, though.
Oh, yeah, but I had to practice a few times.
Yeah. Nothing like pronouncing your own company's name wrong.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to do that.
So how's Zeitlin? What's the support like there? I mean,
great support.
Really?
Great support. It starts with our marketing department. Well, it starts with our managing brokers. We've got great support from leadership and from our CEO, Jessica Averbush, to our managing brokers, Charlie and Franklin office and Jenny Telwar in the Green Hills office. We've got a fantastic marketing department, great training, ongoing education.
Nice.
Changing world. The forms always change every year, so there's always something to learn with the new forms. And now with this new commission structure, or what's the word I want? The payment to the agents. It's a changing world, and that starts August 17th.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. What's the buzz around? What's the water cooler talk on that?
Well, really, if you've done it right for years, there's nothing's changed.
That's right.
Yeah. And
in
order, if you and I to go look at houses, I need a buyer's representation agreement signed from you to say that you and I are going to go look at houses together, and I want to represent you during the buying process.
Right.
And if you're in town for only the weekend, maybe it's just a sign for the weekend.
Right.
Maybe you want to give me an interview and say, let's just do this for a weekend or a few days, and then we'll move forward to next steps. But in that regard, it's not changed.
Right. Yeah, that seems to be what we talk to a lot of realtors. It's going to remove some of the poor performing realtors. Lazy. Because it's going to add a little bit of a barrier maybe, or just you got to provide some value like any other business. But I think it's going to actually reward the non-lazy, higher performing realtors.
Absolutely.
People are more serious about it.
And when you have that conversation in the beginning or in the interview process, that you want to proceed and I will represent you, then you've crossed those hurdles.
Right.
And, there may be times in the process, a week later, a month later, hey, I want to remind you that what we talked about.
Right.
That happens.
Yeah.
But
it's almost like setting expectations with the client.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more transparent. I don't know, because everybody else, the other consensus is like the law's always been the law, right? It's always been negotiable. But the transparency, I think, is the big change.
Absolutely.
Okay. What's your favorite part about the real estate industry? I always like to ask this question. And then what's coming next is what's your least favorite part? So,
I love meeting people, talking to them, solving a problem. I've had success stories where I've searched for a house and let's go look at this one, and all of a sudden this is what I want.
That's a good feeling.
And at the closing table, those first time home buyers. I had a client. They were expecting their first child. They got set up in their house right before, I don't know, a month or so before the baby was due. And knowing that you're part of that, and they're going to set up roots, and mom's going to build the nest.
Yeah.
And
they're going to remember that house forever.
They're homeowners and building a family and their memories and their journey in life. Mm-hmm. And I was part of that.
That's right.
And
a big part of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful. I think that gets overlooked quite a bit. All right, so what's your least favorite part?
How much time we got?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's every day's different.
Hard to get processes in place.
It's trying to connect with people on the telephone. And
rough.
Yeah, and I'm talking about not my clients, but I'm talking about other people in the industry. It's like you got
all the third parties that have to be involved, like title and mortgage and all that.
It's like, hey, you got a telephone? Why don't you answer it?
Right.
We're all trying to make money here.
Yeah, let's get this thing done. Let's get going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say. Some people say the all of the reality shows that have revolved around real estate and we get that a lot with like some of the builders or interior designers.
Joanne,
right?
Who can change a house in 30 minutes.
Yes, it's really messed up some expectations on homeowners when it comes to these types of things. Which we felt that in restoration as well. It's like I remember I had this client who we were doing some mold remediation in her bathroom or something like that, and she was in there watching us the whole time, and she was like, I watch a lot of HGTV, so I know exactly what I'm talking. And she wasn't like being facetious. She was being dead serious. I was like, oh, well, you take over. Let's go.
You're the pro?
Yeah, let's go. Why am I here?
Well, on that note, I had a client. We found a house for him in Franklin, and it was a rancher. And Mark is a retired remodeler from D.C.
Okay.
So he was he knew his stuff. He knew how to do all that.
Right.
They gutted the home after they lived in it for a year. They moved out. rented a camper and put it in the front yard because they weren't an HOA. They could do that. But they lived in that camper from basically Memorial Day to Labor Day last summer in 23.
Nice.
But they gutted the house. And I did a series of videos on my YouTube channel. So if you want to find it, please do and follow along. And, I jokingly said to Mark at some point, I said, "You mean it's not going to take 30 minutes?" Yeah, that's what Joanne does. Maybe an hour.
Thought you knew what you were doing, man.
Yeah. So, but it took that long from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Yeah, that is a problem. It really is. It's changed expectations a little bit, and I think there's a way to handle it. If you're bringing that up front at the very beginning with a customer, sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. You're not gonna make everybody happy, right? There's always gonna be
an incident, but as my old boss said, and I got to give a shout out to Bill Wolf. He passed away many years ago, and he was my mentor. And I was fortunate to get to work for him twice in my career. The first time at Royal Cup, and then when I moved over to S&D, he was my mentor.
Cool.
But he had a saying. He said, "The pickup truck's going to get stuck in the ditch. It's how you react to get it out that people see."
Amen. That is exactly right.
Things are going to happen.
Yes.
The remediation that you're going to peel the onion back and go, "Well, we got to replace the subfloor."
Yep.
It's going to happen.
That's right.
It's how you react.
Mm-hmm. That is also a very common theme, because we talk to lawn care companies, house cleaning companies, and even the best of the best have issues. Like you're saying, I mean, there's going to be a time where a lawn guy runs over a rock and hits a window. It's uncontrollable. But what's your next step? How do you fix it? What do you do for the client? And I mean, and that process is how you keep or lose clients. Because what I've learned, and from personally and from talking to business owners, is most of the time, homeowners are fully capable of understanding that accidents happen. What they're not capable of dealing with is if you aren't dealing with the accident correctly, meaning you're not making them whole, or you're not acting like it's a big enough deal, or if you're not treating it like you should. That's when clients disappear. Versus, let's use the rock through the window as a lawn care example. Mm-hmm. If your first call is to your window replacement vendor, because I'm sure you have one as a lawn care company, and get them out there that same day, and obviously you're going to pay for it, and then your next call is to the client or walk into the house and tell them in person. If you've done that, most of the time they're like, okay, that really sucks. It's really inconvenient for me, but it's getting fixed and the problem's solved.
You took care of it.
Mm-hmm.
And add to that list you just gave, the speed of or the response time.
Right. Same day, right away. Here's what we've done to fix it. We're terribly sorry. We know this is inconvenient, but you're doing the right thing. And what you've done there is you not only kept a client, but you've also probably created more clients because they're going to tell people about that.
Oh, yeah. All positive.
That's right.
Hey, they threw a rock. They caught a rock, went through the window, but they fixed it.
They fixed it in one day. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
That's the story now.
Yeah.
So, and I think young business owners, and I was guilty of this, so I know, you get caught up on revenue, and you get caught up on getting more clients, and you think you're just busy, and like you get a little bit sidetracked on what matters, and you might make a mistake, right? You might not place the emphasis where it needs to be placed, or you might pick a fight instead of just solving it. I think at the beginning of business, you should really be focused on those types of things as a business owner, because you're going to see such positive effects years 2, 3, 4, 5 down the road if you start out like that. And it trickles down to your employees. If that's how you respond to problems, they're going to do the exact same thing when you're not around.
Absolutely. It builds your culture.
Mm-hmm. Which is huge. It's also another overlooked thing at the beginning because it feels silly, right? Sometimes when you've got 2 people in a company and you're talking about culture, you're like, it's me and one other guy. And what kind of culture do we need to worry about, right? But I don't think there's too early of a time to start thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
How do you find your clients? Networking?
Networking, yeah. With networking events, any opportunity I can to talk to people.
Yeah.
Obviously, places where I've already set up. I'm a member of the Franklin Noon Rotary.
Nice.
So, try to, and not that the Rotary Club's designed for that. That's a BNI type thing, but, it doesn't hurt when somebody from the fellow member comes up and says, I need your help.
Yeah.
There's always church group, Sunday school.
Well, real estate
neighbors.
agents are it's almost like you don't have to network. You just have to be in a lot of channels, and they know that you're a real estate agent.
Well, and the average person knows, what's the stat, 12 real estate agents per person.
Right.
So,
You
and some of it's, well, that's my brother-in-law does that. Wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, you might not win that one,
Right. And you got to understand that.
Yeah.
And you got to have a little tough skin, too.
Yeah, and that's okay. Well, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my home. I know you and Trent have kind of talked about it a couple times. You heard about my background in home services. Really, over the last 4 years, we've talked to we've worked next to home service companies and talked to thousands of homeowners. And we kept hearing some of the same problems from homeowners that were usually around their home maintenance and their home service companies. And those pain points were four. Number one was they have around 4 to 5 different companies on a regular basis and have to pay them in 4 or 5 different ways. So it was pretty fragmented and unorganized for homeowners, so that the check here, cash here, Venmo here, whatever. The other numbers 2 and 3 were scheduling and communicating was tough. They didn't know who to call, when to call. And then the fourth one was finding quality vendors. They didn't know where to find good vendors from. What we found is most homeowners aren't trusting like a Google search because they understand how it works. They understand it's a pay-to-play thing, which doesn't usually translate into high quality. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So we really sought out to build a product that solved homeowner problems. And that's really a big differentiator from us from like an Angie or a Thumbtack that exists as a lead gen platform for businesses. We are solving homeowner pain points. So our product is one app, one location for these homeowners to go to pay all of their current vendors, find new high-quality vendors, schedule, and communicate all from one location. Couple other differentiators that we find attractive for realtors to help to refer us is we have the promise of quality there, right? It's free for vendors to be on. So if you have vendors that you usually like to refer, that you want on the platform, they can join. Takes about 5 minutes. As long as they pass the vetting process, they're in and they're good to go.
So you'll have, let's use plumbers as an example, because water heaters do go out.
Big time.
And yeah, they do.
Yep.
And it's just a part of life. So you may have X number of plumbers in your app, and let's use 24.
Yep.
So can these people pick and choose the homeowner?
Yeah, so they can, or they can go through the other route, which is they would go into the category of plumbing. They would then post that job. So they'd select water heater out, they can leave a message, take a picture, and then they post it. Then what happens on the other end is all of the plumbers on our platform will get a notification. They go into their app on their side, and they see the opportunity. The cool part about it is what they see is they see your name, your address. They don't have your phone number or your email address, so they can't bombard you to try to solicit business.
Goes through the app.
And then if you're plumber A, I'm plumber B, let's say the job's out in Franklin, and I do most of my business in Goodlettsville. I'm like, that's probably not for me. I'm not going to throw my hat in that. I don't want it. But you're out in Franklin. You see the zip code. You're like, that's right here next to me. I want that. So then there's an ad offer button. I throw my hat in the ring, and then the homeowner then has a curated list of the top 3 to 4 that it fits their model, it fits their location, it fits what they want to do, it fits their schedule. Homeowner then picks who they want, and that's it. It's automatically scheduled.
Nice.
So we've really tried to narrow down and solve 2 pain points there. For the homeowners, it's big because if they use an Angie right now, in that same example, your information would have gone to 15 different plumbers. And then they all would have called you because they all automatically got charged. We're not charging until the homeowner has chosen the business. So that's a huge differentiator because they're not now encouraged to bombard you because they've already been charged that $40 for that lead. So it's a big thing for vendors. It's always a huge thing for homeowners. But they can also, what's really cool, the last part of our validation was we asked the question, how would you hire a handyman right now if you had to? And overwhelmingly, so over 80% of the responses were a referral in some form or another. So it was I'd go on Facebook, ask my neighborhood Facebook group. I'd call my mom and ask her. I'd ask my neighbor, right? Which was very surprising because I thought they would turn to a Google or something, but they're not. So what we had to do was digitize the referral process. So the way you can hire directly from one of those plumbers is two ways. The first way is there's kind of a My Neighborhood portion of the app to where you can see Russell gave 615 Plumbing a 5-star review, and you can see they did a great job to replace my water heater, whatever. If I see that 615 has 15 reviews 5-star, I can click them and hire direct from them.
Gotcha.
So that's another really great thing that we try to do for the homeowner is take advantage of how they're already finding these businesses in a referral sense, and digitize it to where they can hire directly from a referral. And then you can also go into a business's profile and hire direct from them. Because we do want to help these businesses get some recurring business if they did a really great job with a customer. Last thing that's super cool about our platform is the My Home Hub. So consider it kind of the Carfax for your home. It's a really cool aspect for realtors as well because any work that's done on the platform, it automatically stores it in your My Home Hub. So think things like paint color, flooring type, the last time the water heater was changed out, the last time the roof was inspected, the last time the filters were changed in the HVAC, last time the HVAC was serviced, all these things that really go to the health of the home and maintaining it, we have the ability to store in your profile. The goal in the future with time and volume of that would be, let's say you're selling a house in 5 years and you've got somebody who's had My Home. They've got a My Home Hub that you can then share with the sellers. You can use it in negotiations. It can really affect the sale of the home. It can protect the value of the home, right? If I can show I've taken care of my HVAC, my roof, my foundation, they're all in great working order. You're not going to have to deal with this at all, and here's all the proof. It's a super convenient for the homeowner for things like
super convenient for the real estate agent as well.
Exactly. So
because that's part of the marketing. If I can go to you and say, you've provided me a list of the dozen things that you've done: new windows, replace the water heater,
right,
tune up the HVAC every year. We've got a list of that. It's documented.
Yes,
that's a great service.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And the consumer, the buyer, is looking for that.
Right. And as a buyer, I go, cool. I feel a little bit more comfortable about my decision now. And maybe you can even say, hey, look, with a My Home Hub full profile, I can guarantee you that this HVAC unit is going to last for 10 more years. Right? It was installed 2 years ago, and it's been serviced every year since. The filters were replaced every quarter. This thing is in as good a shape as it can possibly get.
Well, you determine this, hey, it's still under warranty.
Exactly, and it holds your warranties as
Absolutely.
well. So, it's a really exciting product, not only for homeowners, because that is who we're building for. Selfishly, we want to talk to as many realtors as we can because we want to get this into as many people's hands as possible. And we know that realtors have people moving into town, and that's really, really a perfect customer for us because they don't have these pre-established relationships, right? So our goal there is you get the call, hey, do you know a good plumber? Hey, do you know a good electrician? And you can just refer my home, so it makes your life a little bit easier. But also, we want to shift some liability away from realtors, right? So instead of having to give 3 recommendations, you can feel comfortable knowing that if you recommend my home, A, we've vetted, there's high-quality vendors there, and B, the homeowner's going to have multiple choices, and then C, the homeowner still chooses who they want. So ultimately, it shifts liability while still allowing you to be helpful to your clients.
Well, and selfishly, as a real estate agent, I like that touch point where the client who bought something 6 months ago says, hey, I need a plumber.
So here's what we've done to solve that. You teed me up perfectly there, so thank you.
No, you're welcome.
So if you refer our product as a realtor, your information, so your name is pinned to the top of their messaging in our app. Okay. So every time they use our app, they're going to see you in their messages over and over and over and over and over again. They might not ever contact you through it, but what they're going to see is you and your information time and time and time again, way more than that one touch point 6 months later when they're asking for a plumber.
Right.
Because then also they're going to be like, oh, yeah, he referred this to me. This has been a great product. Right. So we want to make sure that we're keeping your brand and your name top of mind because we know that's a touch point, and we know that that's how you get that next referral. So we're really trying to make sure we protect that and improve that for realtors.
And to the homeowner, just to be clear, there's no cost for this service until service is performed by that vendor.
Correct.
So there's no cost for your app.
That's correct. Yep. There's no subscription fees. There's nothing like that. Our goal is to make maintaining your home an afterthought. I like to use the example. You remember when we didn't have maps or phones or like GPS or Garmin or anything, and you had to pull out, like I remember.
Oh, the old paper map?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You had to pull out the paper map and be like, okay. Well, anytime we went somewhere, the thought of getting there was a thought that we had to think about, right? We had to go, all right, what route are we going to take? We're going to go here. We need to look for this. That's when we need to split. Now you get in the car, and the directions are not even a thought that you have.
Right.
Because it's just automatic, right?
That's good and bad.
Yeah. Yeah, depending on who you are. So what we want to do is we want to make maintaining your home an afterthought. It should be easy, right? It's a discourage for a lot of people that maybe they don't want to own a home because they don't know how to maintain it, or they don't want to even care about that, right? So our goal is if you want to be completely hands-off, you can. If you want to be semi-hands-off, you can. If you want to cut your grass and not clean your house, you can do that on our platform, right? So we're really trying to create pick your own flavor of maintenance when it comes to your house. And there's just so many industries that we can help out with the platform.
Right. And to the homeowner, the value of there is constant maintenance to a home, but to check those items off, like replacing the water heater, the broken window, the monthly and quarterly services maybe to your home.
Yep.
You've got to do it. It's your responsibility to keep that value up.
Big time, yeah. And the last thing we want you to think about when your water heater goes out is like, okay, who the hell do I call? Mm-hmm. Your first thought should be like, get on my home.
Oh, because it's never a good time when the water heater goes out.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're about to go on vacation,
or you've got 15 people at the house because during the holidays.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, man, that's us. We like to have these conversations because we want to show that right now our goal is to go national and scale this thing as quickly as we can, as quickly as it makes sense.
Absolutely. So how many interrupting here? How many categories of vendors do you have?
So we've got at launch we'll have around 80 vendors, and we'll cover around 40 to 43 industries.
Okay.
Everything from you've got your classics, right? Plumbing, electric, HVAC, roofing, flooring, countertops. Then you've got your recurring ones like pest control, lawn care, cleaning, power washing, gutters, and then you've got the one-offs and kind of the different ones like interior design, general contractors, handymen, interior plant design. We got Tennessee Kitchen Gardens on where they come to your house and they build you an outside garden and help you manage it, right? So our goal was to be as eclectic as possible while also focusing on maintaining and improving the home, right? So a lot of people have said, why don't you get like a mobile groomer or a mobile, car detailer? And like, it's a great service. Maybe in the future. Right now, we are strictly focusing on maintaining and improving the home.
The home, not the car.
Exactly, right.
Yeah. But that list can grow.
And it might.
You're not limited to X number of spots.
It would definitely work for those industries too. And something that we're excited about is, when we launch next month, we just want to talk to users. We want to get it in users' hands and hear what they have to say. And if we hear overwhelmingly, you should have a mobile car detailer on this, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Right. We're building for our customer, and if that's what they're asking for, we'll give it to them. So, but right now our focus is maintaining and improving, and with that, we've got around 40 industries that we'll service.
Okay.
So yeah, I know I just threw up my entire pitch on you, but I wanted to make sure you had a good idea. I know Trent gave you a brief update, but that's who we are. That's what we're doing.
Well, I like it.
Thank you.
I like it, and it's easy for the homeowner, easy for the real estate agent.
That's right. That's our goal.
And over time, as this homeowner has this app, it makes it easier to come resell the house.
That's right. Yes, protects the value. I mean, we'll do things like, we have significant opportunity to help the insurance industry, right? Mm-hmm. If we have these subscription models that we'll introduce in the future, they're strictly designed on preventative maintenance on the things that go wrong in the homes the most that cause the damages that insurance companies have to pay for, right? So if we can do that with volume, we can really, really reduce risk in homes, which helps insurance companies, which ultimately could help reduce premiums for homeowners. It can change some of the home inspection industry stuff, right? So we got great partners right now. Like all of our vendors here are local. Obviously, we're just launching in Nashville to prove this thing out for the next year. So yeah, man, we're excited. We're excited
You
about
should
it.
be.
And we've been building for about 8 months now. So we got a team here that does all the development. We're not outsourcing any of this. They live in Spring Hill, right? So we're all local Tennessee folks here trying to build this thing and make it happen.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well,
Last question for you. So non-selfish one, so I can stop pitching my home.
all right.
What's one thing you wish clients knew before getting involved in selling or buying a home? Is there one piece of advice that you usually have to give, either to first-time buyers or sellers, or is there one piece that usually gets people thrown off? Is there any piece of advice you want to give somebody?
Well, okay, let's look at the buyer and then the seller. I think the seller. How can I answer this? People have this expectation. Our market's gone wild over the past few years, and they want $1 gazillion for their house. Yeah. And if they haven't maintained it, and if they haven't taken care of it, the window's fogged up, you're not going to get that.
That's right.
And there's got to be expectations, realistic expectations of your house is not worth this. It's more like this because there's too much that has to be fixed.
Right.
I've got some great clients. They listen to my suggestions as far as cleaning up, thinning down. So, when you make that decision to sell your house, be ready for it to be unattached to the home. Mm-hmm. It goes from your house to a home that you've got to sell.
Shifting from emotional to transactional.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Take the family photos off.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Get rid of the wallpaper. Well, I like that wallpaper. Sure you do. But
Right.
we're trying to sell the house.
Right. That doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
And to the buyer, you're not building. If you're buying an existing home, you're going to have to compromise.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the sink's not where you want it. Maybe the kitchen island's not big enough. Maybe it's not an open concept. Maybe it's a 2-car, not a 3-car.
Right.
So you got to compromise. You're looking to buy the house with the least amount of objections.
Right. It's almost like order and level of importance to you, the buyer, of like, this is a no-go and this is like I could live with. And as long as there's few no-goes, and if there's a couple I can live with, that's probably what you're going to have to be comfortable with.
Right.
Yeah. There's not going to be a perfect home that has no corrections that you would have built exactly to a T. That's statistically pretty impossible.
I met a lady on a flight back in my coffee days, and Kim and I just built our dream home. And you build a home, and then you go, "Wow, I wish I'd done this." Right. And this lady I ran into on the flight, she goes, "I've built the same home 4 times." And they moved from one spot of the country to the next, took the floor plans with them. And I said, "What did you change along the way?" And she goes, "You'd be amazed." She goes, "It took me 4 times to get it exactly where I wanted it."
No kidding.
And she goes, from the light switches, the
I was
placement,
moving the sink 3 inches this way.
Yeah.
The trash cans here, an outlet here. My in-laws just did a huge addition on their home, and for 6 months, they had painter's tape down in the house where they were going to put things. Mm-hmm. And I'm not an attention to detail guy. I'm a let's launch and we'll build the landing gear in the air type guy.
Yeah. Okay.
And my father-in-law is not that. He's the exact opposite. Perfectionist.
Now, how long were they in that house?
They would just moved in.
Okay.
So they moved in with the idea of we're going to do some serious renovations. And they took about a year, with 6 to 12 months, I think, with painter's tape on the ground, changing it, redoing it, and he did all of the plans for it. He's a carpenter himself, so he did all the plans for it. They had multiple different versions of it, and I was just like, man, this is exhausting to even think about. But to their point, seeing it come to life, his whole thing, and like one aspect of it was like, this is where the coffee maker is going to sit, and I'm going to have to empty it, and I want a trash can here. Like those
and I need an outlet here.
Exactly. Instead of having to walk all the way across the kitchen, it seems silly at the time when you're talking about it, but then when you do it every single day, you're like, okay.
You see, at some point he had a house where he had to go over here to do this, to do that, and made a mess. Drip the coffee.
That's right.
On the floor.
And you're like, oh, this is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. And there's that one day he wakes up and goes, I need to make an adjustment, and it's slight.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that was the take 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was, to kind of try to live it without it being there and seeing what you could kind of tweak.
Now, have they finished the
It is
renovation?
Like, they're probably on 95% done.
Okay.
Just small finishes here and there that are going on. But it was a big one. They moved the kitchen. The whole addition is the new kitchen. They moved a staircase.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the old
That's a
kitchen's
lot.
now the bedroom. I mean, it was a big change. So I think it's been. They're going on like 6-8 months now.
See, it took longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
They should have called Joanne.
Yeah. This is bullshit. Well, Russell, thank you so much for coming in, man.
Thank you for having me.
Very generous with your time. It was also nice meeting you, man.
Good meeting you.
Thank you.